There's no guarantee we're going to necessarily agree, but that doesn't mean we're going to be disagreeable, because we like to hash out the differences here on Run to Win, the Darryl Wood Show. One of the things that folks have had lots of differences about is a biblical subject that we refer to within Christian circles as the rapture. Some people disagree on exactly when it's going to occur. Some people even disagree on whether or not it's going to occur at all. Nevertheless, and wherever you stand on this particular subject, one thing you will probably agree with me on is that watching a high-quality motion picture on the subject is probably something we all as Christians and even non-Christians would be interested in doing. And to discuss just such a motion picture, Paul Lalonde, who is producer and writer of Left Behind, the movie, coming to a theater in 2014. Paul Lalonde, thank you so much for joining me on Run to Win, the Darryl Wood Show.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate your taking the time to talk to me.
Absolutely, sir. Paul, why do a remake of this movie now? And what do you see as the key difference between what you're doing with this film and the first movie that was made?
Well, this is a movie I've always wanted to make, and by that, I've always wanted to make the big movie. And The Rapture is the perfect event to make a big movie out of, because for me at least, The Rapture is probably the most incredible and fascinating event in the entire Bible. And it is perfect fodder for a movie. I mean, millions of people suddenly disappearing, that's a perfect Twilight Zone episode. And so this is something I've always wanted to do. And in the first movie, we did the entire first Left Behind book. So it's a book 3 inches thick, and you're trying to do it in a 90-minute movie. And there was just so much happening in that book and so many plot points that you had to hit. You ended up not having time to develop the characters, time to, care about the people in the story. And The Rapture kind of got lost. The Rapture isn't a, 5-minute event in a movie. It should be a whole movie, the people reacting to it and everything going on, and that's what we've decided to do in the remake. Is it's just about the day of the rapture. It is the day that it happens, and what happens to the people who are left behind after the rapture takes place. And so it's very different from the first one.
Well, to unpack this a little more systematically, in a very generic sense, you've talked about what it is now about. What can viewers expect when they head to the theater to see Left Behind? What kind of a world will they be entering as the viewer?
Well, initially, we're in the everyday world. It could be any day, and that's the whole point of the imminency of the rapture. It's just any other day, and we're going to meet the people. And so, at the start of the movie, we're going to meet the people that we're going to spend the whole movie with. And then the rapture happens, and we are now in a world of chaos and shock, and people. On the ground, everybody's in a state of shock and running around in circles and trying to find the people who are missing. But we have a good chunk of the movie taking place on an airplane. It's the airplane that Nicolas Cage will be flying. And what's great on the airplane is that the people are trapped. There's really not that much you can do. You can only run around and scream for so long, and then you're forced to sit down and talk about it. And that's the great thing about being able to spend the time on the airplane is people are sitting down, trying to come up with answers. And so that's what we're going to do is we're going to go back and forth between the chaos down in the world on the ground and the people on the airplane trying to make sense of what's happened.
Now, in terms of putting this script together, what did you find to be most challenging? I know you talked about just the enormity of the amount of events one could attempt to cover with regard to this particular subject, but what was most challenging for you in terms of bringing the script together?
Well, I think for the script itself, the writing of the script, the big challenge was trying to walk the line that we were trying to do. We were trying to sort of tightrope walk here, that we wanted to stay true to the book, we wanted to stay true to the Bible, we wanted to make it very clear in the movie that it was the rapture, that the Christians were gone, that there was a reason the Christians were gone, that there was a reason that the people who were left behind were left behind. But at the same time, we're trying to make an exciting Nick Cage action thriller that everybody would be interested in going to. And for the last 30 years, I've been focused on Bible prophecy. We've made 7 movies, and we had a TV show for a long time called This Week in Bible Prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
And Bible prophecy has always been the ultimate door opener for me. And I've always found that it worked extremely well, and it was a way to talk about spiritual matters with people who had no interest in talking about God.
Mm-hmm.
Prophecy gets people to ask questions, and people asking questions is a great start if you want them to find answers. And so we are really focused on the prophetic aspects and trying to make sure that those came across, but trying to not make it a church basement movie.
We've talked a bit about the script and your motivation for putting it together the way you've done so. How did you attract the cast, particularly someone of the magnitude of a Nicolas Cage, who is a major box office draw? Was it a matter of these people coming to you at some point and saying, I have an intense interest in this subject matter, or did you reach out to them?
No, I mean, there are people who are in the movie who feel strongly and who are strong Christians, and we're just excited to be part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, the casting was a challenge, and it wasn't because people didn't like the script. The big challenge was trying to get people to read the script and trying to get agents to even show it to to the people they represent. And that was the hardest part. Is a lot of agents just said, no, we're not going to do this. This is, we're not into doing the Christian movie stuff, and so that was always a very difficult thing. We were lucky when we met with Nick Cage's representatives, mm-hmm. that they were very open and thought it was a cool story and thought this is something that Nick might be interested in doing. When we showed it to Nick, he immediately said, "Yes, I would like to do this. I think this is a great story." And we were lucky. And make no mistake, Nick Cage has a lot of options when it comes to what films he decides to do. I know he does a lot of movies, but that phone rings off the hook all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were fortunate to have met his manager, who got the script in front of him. And we were then fortunate that he just loved the script and immediately said yes, he'd like to do it. And of course, once you attach Nick Cage,
sure.
then a lot of other pieces can fall into place as well.
Absolutely. Well, just as a personal aside, I figured that someone who would do a movie, which happens to be my favorite Nicolas Cage movie, The Family Man,
right,
with that kind of very family-centered, wholesome point of view, would probably be very receptive to a film like this, even if other people in Hollywood wouldn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And Nicolas Cage has always made very interesting, if not esoteric, choices in terms of the kinds of movies he participates in. So I think it's kind of apropos that he's part of this project.
Absolutely, and family is very important to Nick. I was fortunate enough to get lots of time to just sit and talk to him. Which was a privilege because I've been a huge Nick Cage fan forever. Mm-hmm. But he is very much interested in family, and that's what he really loved about this script. And that was, probably the first thing he said to me when I met him was that fundamentally this is a story about family. It's
mm-hmm.
a story about a man who's lost his wife and lost his son, and he's separated from his daughter, and it really is about a family falling apart in the
mm-hmm.
face of this incredible event. And so we were very fortunate to get him to read it, and even more fortunate that he really fell in love with the script.
Paul, I know you want people to be entertained, but what do you want viewers to take away from their time spent in the theater with this film?
Well, I think ultimately I want people walking out of the theater saying, wow, is the first thing. I want people saying, wow, is that really in the Bible? Because the fact is that when you get into the evangelical world, the majority of people have heard of the rapture. But when you get outside of that world, the people, most people haven't even heard of it if they're not church-going people. Mm-hmm. And those who have heard it only of it in a negative context, whether it's the crazy doomsday people, or it's the movies and parodies that are making fun of the rapture mm-hmm. and making fun of Christian beliefs and those kinds of things. I think people need to to walk out of there asking questions. Is that really in the Bible? What happened to those people? Is this really going to happen? And I think the only way that we were going to get it out to that mass audience was by trying to package it in this kind of a movie, and an exciting Nick Cage action thriller that really just happens to be about a biblical event. But the bottom line is, what I like to say is that Left Behind is based on a true story. It just happens to be a true story that hasn't happened yet.
Very nice marketing hook. Left Behind is the motion picture coming in 2014, written by Paul Lalonde. He's producer and writer on the project. Left Behind, the movie, you can learn more about at leftbehindmovie.com. You can also go over to facebook.com, Left Behind Reboot, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Paul?
Yeah, if you go to Facebook and just type Left Behind Movie into the search bar, you'll see the official Left Behind Movie page. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of stuff on there, behind-the-scenes pictures, lots of cool stuff, movie posters, and I do a Q&A thing on there, too, to allow people to ask questions they may have about the movie, and I do my best to answer all of them.
Fantastic. And we will have a link posted up at our show webpage, facebook.com/Darryl Wood Show. If you get over there today and click that link, it will take you right to the page about which Paul Lalonde spoke. Paul, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule. I know that principal photography and now post-production have started on the, has wrapped, rather, and you're doing the post-production stuff now after the photography, correct? That's where you guys are now?
That's correct. We're in the process of building all the special effects and visual effects that will make this thing look cool. We should be releasing it in June of this year.
We are going to be waiting with bated breath to see Paul Lalonde's latest work, which will obviously create some very intense conversation around this biblical subject. Paul Lalonde, thank you again for being with us.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.